Well, as so many topics, I think the international data transfer debate will go on for quite a while, which is why I'm really pleased to now introduce Bertrand Pailhès. He is the Director of Technology and Innovation at the CNIL. And Bertrand, you agreed to talk about AI and privacy-enhancing technologies, and I somewhat feel it is a topic that is kind of more like I don't know, focused on the present, which I really welcome. And I don't know if you're aware of that, but we here in Germany, we follow very closely what you are doing at the French DPA. It's always something that gives great inspiration. We basically read all the guidelines that you publish and issue, so it's great to have you here. It's a great honor. I'll give the floor to you. If there is time at the end, we of course can include questions, but I'm absolutely happy to give the floor to you for now for the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much for having me today. I'm very happy to be able to participate in this great event. So I have a presentation. I will focus on AI, and as you said, maybe you didn't see it already because it's only in French, but it will be in English in a few days. We have issued new guidance on AI yesterday, actually, on many aspects of the collection of training data sets, which I will present today as well. My presentation will focus mainly on AI. I will talk a bit about privacy and technologies in the end, and how they relate to AI especially. So the idea that we're convinced here at the CNIL that AI is transformative for almost any field of the economy and the society. We see a lot of investment in private companies, but in public sector as well. And we had with the last year emergence of generative AI, a renewed hype actually on AI, and everybody is convinced that there are huge productivity outputs to come from that technology. Our view is that it's really depending on the application, and that you have the use of AI can be very intrusive or not at all. For instance, you have some federated learning, which is a privacy and technologies on your smartphone for optimizing the autocorrect feature of the keyboard, which is large scale. 2 billion people giving some data to optimize the keyboard and autocorrect, but doesn't feel like there is a lot of privacy risks related to that. And it's the same for LLM, for instance, such as ChatGPT or Bard, which we did not feel are very, at this stage, as a general piece of AI, not very risky in some way. And we had a very few complaints, actually. We received the first complaints on ChatGPT after our Italian counterparts launched in its action against that company. But we have very more sensitive application of AI, such as automated video surveillance, which is a topic that has been quite looked at in the wake of the future Olympic Games in Paris next year, or in the banking sector, for instance, the use of AI for credit scoring, which can really harm data subjects. As I said, there are immediate upsides for businesses and administration, and at this stage, we see a very complex debate on risks and the means to prevent them. So we have a huge debate in the academia with for the last perhaps 5 to 10 years, a lot of debates about the risk of AI, depending on the application, depending on the technology. But now we also have an important debate among the political sphere around the AI Act, obviously, in Europe. So our roadmap to work on AI at the CNIL, we have not been very early on that aspect. I think our British counterpart, ICO, launched its first work on AI perhaps 5 years ago, and there are other authorities that have published guidance already. But we felt that we need to have a full roadmap this year with a new team actually dedicated to that subject in the CNIL, around four actions. First one is to apprehend. So as a regulator, we need to ensure a technology watch, and the developments on LLM, for instance, are very hard to follow. There is a lot of science and a lot of investment and a lot of new papers to read. I think it's difficult for professional academia to follow. I know that's all the good papers for the conference are perhaps not always as reviewed as they should be, considering the number of papers there is. But for us, it's also something very, very difficult. The other aspect of this understanding of the AI that we do is we try to improve the culture on AI within the institution, and we try to produce also pedagogical contents to raise awareness among the general public and to engage with specialists. So that's why we published some articles. So I'm sorry, a lot of my screen captures are in French, but we try to promote some aspects. So as you see in the top left, you see a series on generative AI that we try to explain exactly how it works. And we looked at more advanced academic developments, such as, for instance, the one with the fish is understand the machine unlearning, how an AI system can unlearn something. And in our Office of Data Protection Regulator, for instance, is it possible for an AI to unlearn the data after a right to oppose has been exercised by data subjects? And the answer to that is perhaps, but it's not clear yet, and we need to have extra science to define that. We also have focused part of our work on the security of AI system, because you have, as you know, the technical approach of GDPR compliance is coming from security, IT security, and we see with AI new types of attacks, which are model poisoning and data poisoning, or membership inference attacks that really designed for AI system and did not occur before that. The second aspect of our strategy was really about how we can publish guidance for companies to enable and to guide the developments of privacy-friendly AI. We know that there are difficulties to combine what is state-of-the-art AI, which requires large amount of data to have a lot of investment in research, and to combine that with the principle of GDPR. And we also see like a very strong activity of startups and traditional companies and administrations to try to integrate either models, databases, or more integrated products, such as, for instance, once again, ChatGPT or other AI as a service services that are proposed by many actors. Our goal was to produce practical guidelines to help them answer the question of compliance to GDPR, and also to dedicate some people bandwidth within the CNIL to work closely with some professionals, some specific professions that are working really today on AI, and try to define together the right answer, because we don't pretend to have the answers of compliance to GDPR from AI, but we know that if we have concrete case, it will be easier for us to draft some general guidelines. And obviously, all that we do that also to prepare for the AI Act, because we expect the AI Act to enter into force. Actually, we don't know when, and we don't know if it's next year or in 2 years, probably more in 2 years. But still, there will be additional requirements, and there will be also an extensive work to define the interplay between GDPR and the AI Act, which is a topic that has already been launched within the ADPB with a working group working on this interplay between those two texts, even if AI Act is not adopted yet. So to focus on our first works, and it's typically the guidance that we published yesterday, and we will publish in English perhaps by the end of this week or early next week. So we try to answer those questions. So one is how can I collect online datasets? Is it legal? On which basis? And what should I pay attention to? So, for instance, what we propose to do is to say that you need to define, you need to assess if the online data sets, which may include some personal data, especially if it's a data set of images, for instance, you need to assess if it's manifestly illegal or not. Typically, if it includes sensitive data in the sense of GDPR and you don't have any information about any kind of specific consent, it's probably not licit, and you shouldn't probably use it. The same if there are copyright on that, or if it appears clearly that the dataset is a dataset that is coming from a data breach, for instance, and that it has been illegally accessed by a hacker or an attacker. So we had a lot of debates within the CNIL about, is it legal to use these datasets where especially when it's been collected in other areas in Europe, you don't have many information about how the data subjects have been informed, how they can exercise their rights. But we feel that this manifestly legal approach is a good balance for AI developers. Regarding massive datasets as well, you have questions about the minimization. Is principle of minimization possible? What we propose is to say that it's possible. Minimization doesn't mean that you don't have little datasets. It means that you have the dataset that you need minimized to your need, which can lead to a very large datasets if you need to do that. For instance, if you need to train a large language model, you would need probably to have an extensive amount of text. We would expect you to make sure that you don't have sensitive personal data in that, like credit card numbers or health data, but you can have also personal data about public person, for instance, that you can probably process at a large scale, because the model development is meant to be made at a large scale. And linked to that, we also try to answer to the question of general purpose AI, which is something that may seem difficult with the purpose limitation principle, and we have outlined the fact that obviously you cannot say I want to train a general purpose AI just for the pleasure of training it. You need to be able to qualify the technique that you will use and the main field of use that you expect your general purpose AI to be applicable for. Obviously, if you use a brick, something that is used for computer vision, such as, for instance, there is a model that is called You Only Look Once, YOLO. You need to be able, if you want to do that, but even if it's in that case, it's an open source project that raises additional questions, but you need to be able to say that this model is able to perform this type of task, but you can accept that it's a general purpose AI and that you don't know exactly for what purpose it will use. Is it to detect shoplifting in commerces, or to be used by law enforcement, or to be used in a car, for instance, for detect pedestrians? And the last point that we try to cover is the reuse of data to train AI. So you have a provision within GDPR that you need to do a compatibility test. So it applies obviously to the reuse of data, including data that you found online. And on that aspect, we also try to clarify our view of the research regime from GDPR, which allows you to reuse, actually to be presumed to be able to reuse data that has been collected otherwise, and we try to follow what the legislator wanted to do with GDPR, so to have a large interpretation of research that allows the reuse of data by principle, and obviously with limitation if it's especially invasive for users. So all those are also examples. We have some general general guidance on AI, but also adapted guidance on, for instance, camera augmentée, which is automated video surveillance. The last one is about Federate. We want to also work with a lot of partner institutions, especially research institutes, but also other regulators or testing labs. And our goal is also to build, perhaps to prepare for the governance of the AI Act, where authorities will need to work with notified bodies that will have the task to assess the high-risk AI system. And we try to also work with a lot of companies. For instance, we launched a sandbox on the use of AI in the public sector that closed in recent weeks, and we also selected 3 companies which are scale-ups, French scale-ups, and one of them, which is Hugging Face, is the global leaders of the provision of data sets and model for AI. So we really expect them to work with them in order to bring some privacy compliance and GDPR compliance within the platform, in order to help all the users of the platform, that are a lot of them. There are millions of users that are using the data sets and the model on Hugging Face to train AIs and to make them aware of the GDPR compliance and perhaps the guidance that I mentioned earlier. And the last aspect of our strategy is to do some auditing. So we do all that because we want to be able to investigate in the end, and to be able to investigate, we need to have issued the guidance, and we also need to have technical means to assess the AI system that will be in production. So one of our goals is to develop audit and investigation methodologies, which can be about documentation requirements in our investigation. How do we ask the right questions on a system, and ex post perhaps as well, to be able to investigate on site or online, and to use different assessment schemes such as black box explanation, for instance, on AI. So we did that especially on augmented video for the Olympic Games, because there has been a specific law in France that has been able to actually translate some provision of the AI Act already in the French law for the use of automated video for the law enforcement. And so we have an ongoing discussion with industry players and the Interior Ministry to make sure that they comply or develop evaluation that are similar to those of the AI Acts. And perhaps just to conclude this first presentation and have a discussion, a few elements about pets. So, and it's quite short. So pets are privacy enhancing technology, and they are a way to combine AI and privacy. There are still a lot of limitations that apply, and we really believe that protection of data subjects and the data must rely on technical and legal measures. So technical will not be the only answer to make sure that data is protected. So I will refer, in just to conclude my speech, to the paper of the OECD in March 2023 that provides an overview of the privacy enhancing technologies, and try to focus. So I think this table is is very interesting in the OECD works, and because it propose a lot of privacy enhancing technologies. So we're interested in all of them actually in our activity at the CNIL, and we try to implement, for instance, zero knowledge proof or homomorphic encryption, and some of them are operable at scale, such as ZKP, like zero knowledge proof. Others are not, such as homomorphic encryption. And when I go on AI, I think 3 of them are interesting. One is the use of synthetic data, which is something that very useful to limit the risk for the person, because you can have perhaps additional amounts of data that are not personal data and that you can use more freely or without consent, if it's for to develop an AI for health purposes. There are limitations on that. It's linked to anonymization and pseudonymization, but it's still something that is very, very interesting. As it mentioned there in the challenges, you also have the risk of amplified bias, for instance, in synthetic data. The other one is that we see very interesting is federated learning in the middle, because it's something that will help probably to use machine learning without the need to share the data itself. So it will be interesting. We have this is what I actually presented when I was speaking about the keyboard in Android. It's actually using federated learning. We also have works with health data in France that we have been able to accompany. And I also can mention trusted execution in environments, which are a new way of securing the access to the chips, something that is also useful to protect the transfers, which is the previous speech. And it's something that we also look at how we can use that kind of architecture to perform AI in a more controlled and a more controlled way for the data controllers. So this was my and so my last slide perhaps would be that we actually absolutely need some research, because we need to have models. We need to have models tested and evaluated by academia, and obviously we're more comfortable with open models than proprietary models in that period, in the current period, because we are able to see what is happening with the open models. For instance, I would mention Llama 2 for LLM or Mistral, which are open models that the academia can look at. I mentioned the new security threats that arrives, and we also expect new evaluation framework to come. To sum up all of that, risk analysis will be necessary and it must be the baseline of regulation in that aspect, and that's why we look forward for the AI Act to define what are the high risk AI system. Thank you very much. Dankeschön.
Thank you, Bertrand. Apart from that, I really loved your slides, especially the pets. I think that was very good. I think it's most interesting that you are absolutely combining the developing pets with compliance with AI and AI in general. Did you set up a new department at the CNIL to follow all of these discussions? And follow-up question on that, are you expecting additional responsibilities and also competencies under the AI Act for the CNIL?
So yeah, absolutely. We created an AI department this year. It's only 5 persons, but they're very good. So we have been able to. A lot of people are interested in AI regulation, so we have been able to have very good profiles, technical, legal, and also philosophical people. So we can have a really interdisciplinary view on that. So the team is almost complete right now. We actually don't know what the AI Act will give to the CNIL in terms of powers. We see that in some countries there are new regulators. I think in Spain it's the case. In the Netherlands it's an extension of the DPA that will have a new powers on algorithmic algorithm in general. And so we we feel that we will have a role to play, but it will depend on the end of the trilogue, what is the governance on the AI Act? Is it European? Is it national? And obviously of decision of the French government. And to answer your first question, actually at this stage we do not. We can recommend some pets for the use of AI, but it's not something that we require from data controller. It's more that obviously we try to promote them, but we have not been in a position to say that you should have used federated learning for that processing, for instance. It's something that maybe will happen in the next 10 years, but not right now.
And are you, because you said you are expecting some kinds of new tasks, of course, under the AI, because I mean, AI will kind of always touch upon issues of data protection, because as soon as protected data is being processed, we are kind of in the GDPR framework per se. But seeing that this development is nearly here for us, are you like preparing for it in the sense that there is an exchange going on even between the DPAs and Europe?
At this stage, I hope I do not give too confidential information, but we work on we have launched. We started to work on the interplay between GDPR and the AI Act. Obviously, we will wait for the final text, so perhaps at the end of this year, earlier 2024. But we expect to have a lot of questions to address. Some that I see is the fact that the AI Act is mentioning risk analysis, but not with the same terms of the typically PIA, the privacy impact assessment. So probably we'll need to provide some guidance to the data controller to say that, okay, you can do, I don't know, PIA that is compliant with the AI Act. You just need to add that and that, and to avoid some double procedures for the companies. But it's still work in progress, and it's early stage at the European level.
But it's interesting to hear that these kind of works and discussions are already going on, and it's reassuring, to be honest, because we've seen in the recent years, whenever huge legislation was being prepared and was nearly like entering into force, we often felt that especially the authorities were not really prepared to work with the legal text. And if there are already works going on and discussions going on, I think it's a really good sign for all of us. So I'm looking forward to reading those guidelines, of course. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, Bertrand. Thank you so much for being here today. As I've mentioned, we absolutely follow closely what you are doing at the CNIL. So please be reassured that whatever you publish will be read, even in Germany. And continue the great work, and happy to have been able to listen to you today. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Bye.